Hi, this is Lori from Did You See That Show? Let's talk about what's on TV and what shows you like. So, one of my most popular shows, obviously, is Grey's Anatomy. It has been around for a long time. We've gone through lots of cast changes, uh, lots of interns, lots of people leaving, lots of controversy, a whole lot. So there's a lot to talk about. So on my channel, we are talking about each character. I'm going to start to do a series where one video is going to be dedicated to, let's say, Amanda Bailey. Another one might, be Richard Weber. I've had one out on Derek Shepherd. I've had one out on the love life of Meredith Grey. How are you guys thinking it's going with this type of topic? Let me know in the comments because I want to, do what you guys like. Another show that I have been watching is the new uh, Star Trek Academy. And again, it's getting mixed reviews. A lot of people don't like it. A lot of people say it doesn't follow the main objective, and it totally goes against a lot of what Star Trek actually is. A lot of people think that the characters are too young, and it's kind of a combination between, 90210 meets Star Trek, and it kind of is. I'm not going to disagree. I happen to enjoy that type. I prefer some of the other Star Treks, but I really like a couple of the characters. I really like the captain. I'm what can I say? I guess maybe I'm a old teenager at heart because I tend to like these things. I like 90210 and those types of shows, high school, college shows. There's a market for that. Does it follow Star Trek? Not perfectly, but other than the original Star Trek, there's been some issues with some of the Star Treks in the past. Remember, this is now hundreds of thousands of years since the last Star Trek series. So, a lot has happened and, they don't want to go too much into history all in one episode. So they're, having it in different episodes. And, to me, that's fine. At least I'm getting some Star Trek. And again, it may be a little bit of 90210 in outer space, but, I'm kind of okay with that. It doesn't bother me so much. And, that's just my opinion. Everybody has an opinion. Let me know what you think. My favorite Star Trek series has probably been The Next Generation. And again, I have videos coming up on all of the Star Treks, um, each series, individual videos, to tell you a little bit about what they're about and a little bit of what my opinion is. I'm kind of shy, so a lot of them tend to be faceless videos, but trust me, I wrote them, and that's kind of the way I roll. I'm starting to get a little bit more comfortable with putting my face out there, so maybe you'll see more of my face. I know I've done a couple of audio recordings so that at least it's going to be my voice. Not that I have a great voice because I don't, but just so you know that it's me. And recently, I've put out a couple of videos on some what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, Controversies or scandal type of things with certain characters, and they seem to be pretty popular. So I'm going to continue some of that series. I know my recent one is doing pretty well on the scandals of that '70s show. Now I'm going to do some of them individually and some of the talk shows, and there's going to be more on that coming out. Another show that I've talked about is All's Fair. I happen to like it. I happen to like strong women character types of shows, which is why I really enjoyed Grey's Anatomy. which is why I like All's Fair. I like strong female shows, and in my opinion, there's not enough of them. But, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with strong male, you know, shows also. But, that's where my channel tends to be going. That's where I'm leading it. If you guys want me to go in different directions, please let me know. I read all of my comments. Uh, it's a new channel, so there's not a lot of comments, so I pretty much can answer all of them personally. It's kind of rare that I don't, but sometimes I work a lot, so sometimes it may take me a little bit before I actually get to see them because I work in the medical profession. I'm not a healthcare provider, but just it's kind of rude to pull out my phone and do something in front of a patient, so I just kinda wait till I get home that night or the next day. So, forgive me if it takes a little bit to get to 'em. Uh, a show that's gonna be coming out this summer that I'm looking forward to is, The Gilded Age. I think it's a really good story, and I tend to not be s too much into period type of pieces, but I really like the writing on this. I enjoy the cast. I, enjoy the story. They're doing a really good job. I know I would love to see more than just 10 episodes, but it is very costly to do this show for the sets, for the costuming, because they have to bring it, you know, back to its time. So, it's a little bit harder, and especially when they film outdoors. So, yeah, you gotta settle for it, which is the same type of thing with the Star Treks. Why aren't there more episodes? Well, it's streaming, and the scenery and so forth is extremely expensive, and they just can't afford it. I wish all of them would have, 15, 20 episodes. Even the TV series that are on broadcast TVs aren't quite as many as they used to. As the prices of things go up, the number of episodes that they could afford to do reasonably is going to probably go down. Although they're not getting advertising as much with less episodes, but that you got to kind of meet in the middle. So let me know also in the comments what shows you would like for me to cover. I'm just going to pull up a quick list here so that I know what's coming out so that I can tell you properly. Uh, should have had this up ahead of time. Apologize for that. I have another channel, and that's what it's on, so you'll have to excuse me. But if any of you are interested in GLP-1s, GLP-1 Journey and Review is my other channel. Um, I have a video that just came out on ER, the old ER show that seems to have changed the way we do medical shows altogether. There's a lot of medical shows out there now. I have one coming out that's, gonna put the Pit versus Grey's Anatomy. Keep in mind they're totally two different things. One is the life in the ER where you actually get to see a shift in the ER, what happens, and one's like Grey's Anatomy, which goes a little bit more into the personal lives and the characters and so forth, along with the medical drama, and that seems to be where a lot of shows are like Chicago Med, the same type of thing. It's kind of a combination and probably leans a little bit more into the personal lives. Both, I think, have their place, and both are totally different. Where in the Pit, you don't get to see quite as much of the personal stories or what led, just little glimpses. Because, like I said, you're actually each show is basically an hour in the life of the ER, and again, working in the medical profession, I work in imaging, so it's not like it's all that glamorous, but, it is somewhat true to life, a little bit far-fetched, but again, I'm trying to see what I have out here. Um I, also have a series that I'm doing, which is on older shows and what you think of them, and that goes all the way back to I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched, all the way up to like Dynasty and so forth. Just to give you some examples, Blue Bloods. Um, we talk about talk shows. We talk about. Uh, Gay shows and the differences and what's happened to gay characters, because it is 2026 and we can talk about that now. So I am, and I'm doing it. You don't have to watch it if it's not your cup of tea. I totally understand that. I'm not asking people to do that, but we've come a long way basically from uh, the early gay TV shows, all the way from Ellen's character announcing that she was gay to there's full series about gay shows, and why most of them tend to end quickly, and so forth, because you'll have to watch the videos if you really wanna know why, but I don't wanna spoil everything. But, this actually started way back in the soap operas, and I'm talking way back in the '70s, where the daytime soap operas were one of the first ones to deal with gay characters. So, it's come a long way because now you look on TV and almost every TV show has a gay couple or a gay character on it. So, we've come a long way and I want to celebrate it. Um, some of the scandals of the TV stars on the shows I have coming up look pretty promising. Like I said before, I have some, talk show people, along with I'm going to dive into all of the '70s show cast because there was a lot of controversy with them, and you guys seem to be pretty interested in. But I have to admit, one of my favorite series that I'm doing on the channel is some of the nostalgia ones. I really enjoy doing the Bewitched and the I Dream of Jeannie ones. If you haven't watched them, go watch them. There's also a nostalgia playlist. It's kind of fun because I grew up watching some of these shows, and some of these characters that were on there. Also have some of the so-called teen heartthrob. There's a video on that, so hopefully you'll enjoy them. Again, I just released one recently on Dynasty. I'm going to probably do one on Dallas because that was a big show in the past. Again, there's that Larry Hagman thing with the I Dream of Jeannie, all the way up until Dallas, and believe it or not, Barbara Eden actually was in Dallas for a season. So a little interesting little tidbit like that. I'm going into some trivia and nostalgia on the current shows, Easter eggs type of things. I'm planning on possibly doing a total trivia on certain shows, test your trivia skills. So if you have any interest in that, keep looking for those videos in the future because they're coming. I'm also going to be doing a live with a friend of mine, Jen, who also has a GLP-1 station, which when we do the live, I'll link her information in the description. But she has chickens and hens that she raises, and she has named a lot of them after Grey's Anatomy characters. So, I think it's going to be interesting to figure out, why she named a particular rooster Alex as opposed to something else, and introduce you to your chickens. I just think it's kind of a funny little correlation between, you know, TV characters and chickens. What do they have in common? Yeah, I don't know, I guess I'm gonna learn that too, so, you know, a lot of fun stuff coming up in the near future. Again, anything that you guys want, put it in the comments, I'd be more than happy to cover this kinda stuff. That's why I'm starting this channel, like I said, it's a pretty new channel, so I wanna go in the direction that you guys want me to, that I'm able to do, because, without you guys there wouldn't be a channel, and, what better life is there than writing a script about, things that I like to do most, watch TV shows and, find out about the characters, find out about who plays the characters, what they're really like. Who knows if this character scandal thing takes off a little bit more, maybe I'll do a little bit longer, uh, in-depth type of videos. Right now, they're between 8 to 10 minutes, but, like, I could go 15, 20. There's a great content creator that actually already does this, Ash Silver, Coffee and Cults. I highly recommend that channel. If you're at all interested in any types of scandals, she does a terrific job. I'll never be as good as her. Um, I know my limitations. She's doing this full time. I'm doing this kind of as a hobby because I just enjoy doing YouTube, and I enjoy watching TV. I enjoy learning about the TV characters. I enjoy learning about the people that play these, why they were chosen and so forth, other shows that they've been in. And as far as like things like I've always been a Trekkie. I will admit wasn't huge on Deep Space Nine. I'm going to revisit that when the show, in the summer when the shows get a little bit slower and there's not as many, because I don't know why I really didn't enjoy that. Maybe I just didn't give it a chance. Maybe I was tired when I first watched them. Could be a lot of reasons, I don't know, but I'm gonna give it another chance. I think that's important. I always try to give shows a second chance. A good example of that is Best Medicine. I didn't particularly like the first episode. I didn't think it was gonna go anywhere. I thought it was a little bit boring. I thought it was a little bit slow, but, I think now they're on the 4th or 5th episode. It's gotten a little more interesting, a little better. Do I think it's gonna be a great show? No. I mean, it has potential. Will it get renewed? Probably, possibly. Again, remember these shows, their ideal thing is to do more than 3, um more than 3. God, just having a brain fart, sorry, it's my ADD, seasons, because and it also depends on how long, how many episodes are in each season, so that it could be picked up, uh, by streaming or by, some of these, TNT or these channels that, you know, do all these older shows. You want enough of them so that they'll do it. Ideally, it's, usually like 5 seasons, and then they could run all the reruns. They could run them 3 to 5 days a week, and or some of them run 'em actually once a week, and you don't run out of them so quickly, so that you're repeating the same thing over and over and over again. Also on the channel, I've done a video on the history of talk shows. Uh Kind of interesting, how we went from the early days all the way up till today, and now a lot of them are being canceled due to political reasons and so forth. I have one that's gonna be coming out very shortly on reality TV, which seemed to have gotten really popular during one of the TV strikes, because they didn't have to pay the actors or have actors cross over the strike line, because they're actually classified as news shows, believe it or not. So, their rules are different. They don't have to pay the people as much. They don't have to pay them residuals, and they don't. They're a lot cheaper to make. And for some reason, people seem to be interested. I personally am not a huge reality TV show person. I when I do watch reality TV, it's like I do like Dancing with the Stars. I like some of the singing competitions, America's Got Talent, that type of thing. But I'm really not a Big Brother or a Survivor or any of those type of things. That's just me personally, not saying anything against any of you guys who enjoy that. I just don't particularly care too much for that type of show. That's just me. Like I said, my grandmother used to always say that's why they make chocolate and that's why they make vanilla, because people are so different. You have to have a choice, and that's fine. And if they happen to make money on it, fine. I know on my other channel, the GLP-1 Journey and Review channel, I have done a video um, on, again, mine just went totally blank here. God, I'll get back to that when my mind gets back there. Sorry, been a long week. It was one of the weight loss shows, Biggest Loser. I'm sorry, okay, it came back to me all of a sudden on the Biggest Loser. That's because I also did an interview on one of the Biggest Loser contestants that's now on a GLP-1, which actually makes it more for my weight loss channel. Um, and again, if any of you are interested in that, I could pop a link in the description when I'm done. So, not a big deal. Let's see if I can put this in the chat. I'm actually, no, I guess I can't. I'm actually used to different software. Here we go. Okay, that is the name of the YouTube channel if any of you are interested. Um, I push this channel on that channel, so I'm gonna now push that channel on this channel, if that makes any sense. I've got another video coming up on it's kinda GLP-1, but I'm gonna put it on this channel on Oprah and her weight loss and how that's affected her casting and so forth, and how it affected her shows, what shows she could do, and so forth. So I decided to do that on this channel rather than on the weight loss channel because I might do a Oprah one on that channel, but it'll be different because I like to do obviously different stuff for different channels and different channels and so forth. Um, Let me look at other shows that I have coming up. I did one in the nostalgia series on Walton Mountain that seemed to have done pretty good. Again, I've been doing let's see, I did The Golden Girls, which was popular, and as luck had it, that the couple days, or actually about a week after, is when they had the anniversary of the show, and that I guess that helped a little bit. Did one on Doogie Howser, which was a little bit hard to do because that's an old show and it only was on for a few seasons. Again, I did one on Fire Country, uh, Doc, which is another medical one about uh, an attending physician who got into a car accident and basically lost the last, I think it was 10 years of her memories. So she was kind of stuck in her memories in the past, and she has to actually like go through her whole medical training again because it was a traumatic brain injury. She has to reprove herself, and all of her memories haven't come back. They're slowly coming back. This was actually based on a series that was done, I believe, in the UK a while ago, which happens more than you think. They basically the same series, slightly different. The one in the UK was about a male doctor. This is a female doctor, and kind of an interesting show, kind of an interesting concept. Uh, Again, all these medical shows are very different than The Pit. So if you watch The Pit, total different beast. It is probably is gonna change the way that medical shows are viewed, kinda like how ER did to, the current ones, a little bit more realistic. When you go back to shows like, Marcus Welby, they really didn't have too much in the hospitals, or it wasn't very realistic and so forth. And as it evolved, we got a little bit more realistic, and the pit is like the ultimate in realistic. Now, I worked in many hospitals, including major trauma centers. Is it quite as hectic? Almost, like, maybe I caught them on a good day. I only worked at that major trauma center for like a month or two. So, a little bit hard to base it on, but, yeah, and again, this is more based hour to hour as opposed to any of their personal lives. As a matter of fact, The Pit season 1, one of the, I guess at the time, medical students was arrested in the very last scene, and then they came back, and it's the 4th of July. They basically made no mention of that. So the personal life, very little. We do know that she has a son, and the son actually came on the last episode due to childcare. They had to bring the kid to the hospital, and they had to wait there until I think the grandparent could pick him up with the father of the child and so forth. But other than that, we never would have known too much about other than that they had a child. Another one of the residents basically has said that he has a couple of kids, but and he did mention the age. I know one was 5, and I forgot how old the other one was offhand. But, so we're learning little bits and pieces, but only through conversation. Because, like I said, the whole thing takes place at the hospital, so you're lacking some of the personal lives. And, again, exciting, good, but totally different. So it's kind of hard to compare a show like Grey's Anatomy or Chicago Med, where they go deep into the personal lives, and a lot of the episodes is more of the personal life and brief encounters in the hospital, in the ER, and so forth, as opposed to the pit, which is different. And will it change the way medical shows are? I think possibly in the way that it's more realistic, a little bit more fast paced. But some of us like a little bit of the personal. Maybe an in between. Maybe some of Grey's Anatomy will take some of this and have a little bit more in the hospital, a little bit more fast pace in the hospital. Uh, but knowing how Chandra is, she goes more for the, bam effect of, the tree limb that went through that impaled the person, as opposed to, a shooting episode. Although Grace has had shooting episodes, and it wasn't just the ER, it was throughout the hospital. Again, very exciting. Different though, because you know, a different type of show. Will it make shows go maybe in the middle a little bit more? Possibly. I think that way it's gonna change the way that medical shows are. Um, Again, we'll have to see. Where you have, Best Medicine, which, he's a country doctor, and he's actually a cardiovascular surgeon, and for some reason, which I don't know if they're gonna dive into, that now can't stand the sight of blood, kinda passes out. A little bit unbelievable, a little bit of a weird concept, yes. But, that's what they've done. I thought it was gonna be more, like the show, I think it was Doc Holliday with Michael J. Fox, where, like, he was assigned to, um, a small town, to pay a fine type of thing, and had to practice there for a while and learn to like it. I thought it was gonna be a little bit more than that. I think, for a surgeon all of a sudden to be can't, pass out at the sight of blood, a little unrealistic. Like, how did you get to be one of these renowned heart surgeons doing that? How did you get through medical school and residency, and fellowships and all that? Maybe they'll explain some of that. I don't know. Maybe it was some sort of traumatic event. I don't know. To me, a little bit unbelievable. But all that being put aside, the show is becoming a little bit more interesting. Again, we're looking into the characters a little bit more. Like, we found out that his assistant was a twin in the womb and literally ate the other twin. Um, which does happen. I mean, it's rare, but it does happen, and, we'll have to see, where that leads. Again, this is a little bit more into the personal lives part of it, but if they're gonna get into the personal lives, I really wish that they would explain why all of a sudden this world-renowned, big Boston cardiovascular surgeon all of a sudden can't stand the sight of blood, because to me, that's a little bit unrealistic. But, if you look on the realm of things, Star Trek, some people say it's a little bit unrealistic, but is it? Do we know how it's going to be in the future? That's how a lot of us Trekkies have always felt, and again, you went from the original series where, if you look at the sets, it kind of looked cool at the time, but, you look at the sets now, it's like day and night with technology and the amount that they spend on the sets, and what could possibly be in the future, all these little robots flying around and stuff like that, that wasn't happening in any of the other ones. But again, this is, hundreds of thousands of years in the future of the last Star Trek series that went out. So, you have to look at it that way, and, kind of cool, as but, a show can't be 100% design of the set. There's got to be some quality to the scripts, and that's what a lot of people are complaining about with Starfleet Academy, is that, it's not doing that. But I think as the series is evolving, they're doing a little bit better. Like, they had an episode just this week to explain what happened with the Klingons and so forth, and, that the whole Star Trek philosophy should not to be to change them to the Federation, but to accept them and work with them, which is leading me to believe that they're listening, or that maybe they just got off to a bad start with the writing and so forth. Uh, but again, this also happened in Strange New Worlds, where they were saying that their Spock type of character wasn't 100% Vulcan. So, when they turned themselves into Vulcan, they were more of a Vulcan, which doesn't make sense in the whole Star Trek theme and so forth. So, there's mistakes made in all the series, and some of it is they just want to get a little cute because, that kind of brings up ratings, but it's going to piss off some of the true Trekkies. So, they got to weigh which one's going to benefit them more and go with it, because, you know, it's basically all about these TV studios and, TV basically making money, advertising, and so forth, because that's what's gonna get these series going. And getting back to Grey's Anatomy, it seems like they seem to have found a way to do this, because, they've been around over 20 years and are still getting good ratings. Are their interns as good as, the Magic group? In my opinion, absolutely not. But they're different. They have to be different. They have to move on. You know, actors, you don't necessarily, I mean, there's only basically like three characters that have been around since the beginning, and that's, Richard, Amanda, and Boki. Boki's been in every single episode. You can't say that about all the other stars. Um, they don't want to get so, typecasted. So, they only wanna do it for so long, and, it's hard to look at these actors as somebody else, you know, other than the characters that they play on there because 'cause they've been doing it for so long, but, you know, that's life in TV, and some of them, as you get a little bit older, are gonna settle for that because, cast typing doesn't matter so much because they're going towards the end of their career, and who knows? Maybe this is helping them doing some directing, producing, and so forth, because that's a big part of it too, it's uh, speaking of directing, I've got one coming out soon on a child star that is now a world famous producer, director. You know, don't want to give too much, but I do want to tell you that that's coming. Again, let me know in the comments what you want to hear about because what you want to hear about is what I want to do. And that's going to kind of wrap it up for this live.